Welcome back to the program. Let's get live to our MPs panel. Sam Ray, the member for Hawke, Labor MP, and Liberal MP, member for Casey, Aaron Violi. Gentlemen, appreciate it as always. Aaron, what does the coalition need to do to convince more people that you're ready for government? Today's news poll said 45% think you are, 55% think you're not.
Kieran, it's great to be with you. Again, there's so many different polls every day, every week. There's a different poll showing different things. So we're not going to look into these too deeply. What we're going to continue to do is hold the government to account, as Peter Dutton and the coalition has done for almost 3 years now, while continuing to roll out our policies, whether it's banning gambling ads during sporting events, doubling the Medicare-funded mental health sessions, $5 billion infrastructure fund into housing, helping small businesses with extending the instant asset write-off. There's many policies that we've rolled out, but we'll continue to roll those out between now and the election. Everyone knows that they're not better off today than they were 3 years ago under Anthony Albanese and Labor, and we'll continue to prosecute that case, and we'll continue to roll out positive policies. They're resonating well here in Casey, all across Victoria and the country, and we'll continue to do the work up until the election whenever the Prime Minister decides to call it.
We saw a thumping win for Labor at the weekend in WA, Sam. This is interesting, though, where your home state has been a strong point for Labor in recent years. Not so much now. In fact, it's probably the most vulnerable spot politically for the government.
Kieran, I don't think any state, any community, any electorate should be taken for granted, and Victoria is no different. At the end of the day, the people of Victoria need to see their governments, federal, state and local, delivering for them. I think what's interesting, and to go to the point that Aaron was just making, people are now starting to take a really close look at Peter Dutton. And at a time when Queensland is facing natural disaster, we've seen people's lives and their homes and their livelihoods put at risk. The Prime Minister's there, the Deputy Prime Minister's there, and Peter Dutton hops on a plane and flies down to Sydney for a Liberal Party fundraiser. And I think people are starting to wake up to what kind of bloke Peter Dutton really is. He's someone who's very focused on himself and what he wants, and not very focused on the community at large.
Aaron, you heard Sam's comment there on Peter Dutton. Peter Dutton said he was back well before the cyclone hit landfall, but is the case made by Sam and others in Labor resonating with some people?
Well, Peter's already outlined and explained in multiple media sources the background. As he said, it was well before the cyclone hit. But those in glass houses better be very careful, Sam and others in Labor, because it was the Prime Minister of this country on the same day that there was a terrorist attack in Melbourne. He was having drinks with ALP donors in Perth, 12 hours after that terrorist attack. So those in glass houses want to be pretty careful in the ALP, because by the standard they're setting, the Prime Minister stands condemned for that action. He stayed in Perth, didn't visit the terrorist attack here in Melbourne for over a week, or maybe just under a week, 4 or 5 days, attended donor drinks that night. The other thing I'd say about Victoria, I'm wondering whether Sam's going to follow some of his federal Labor colleagues that are putting out material with no red, no Labor logo, no reference to the Prime Minister at all. They're hiding and running away from the Labor brand here in Victoria. We'll be interested to see what Sam and others are going to do if they're going to join their colleagues in being embarrassed to be part of the Labor Party here in Victoria.
Sam Ray, your response to a couple of those points?
The subject. Kieran, Aaron's just changed the subject and it started talking about a whole range of other things. We've got a cyclone in Queensland and northern New South Wales at the moment. We have people's lives, their homes, their livelihoods at risk. The Prime Minister's there, the Deputy Prime Minister's there. There's been a lot of preparatory work to get those communities ready in order to make sure that the impact of that cyclone is minimised to the extent that is possible. And we've seen the reports in the recent weeks that actually when the global financial crisis hit and Peter Dutton was in the Liberal Party's senior leadership team at that point, while the rest of the country, all sides of politics, were focusing on minimising the impact on the Australian economy, keeping people in their jobs, Peter Dutton allegedly used the information that was available to him to go and do some share trading to make himself wealthier. This is the kind of bloke that wants to lead our country, a guy who's only interested in himself. He's only interested in his own interest, and he's not looking after the Australian people. And changing the subject doesn't get away from that. It's not Aaron's question to answer, but Peter Dutton needs to front up to the Australian people, to the people of Queensland and northern New South Wales, and explain why his Liberal Party fundraiser was more important than filling sandbags and helping out his community face the oncoming cyclone.
And he's done that today, Sam. Interesting that you can't defend the Prime Minister. Peter Dutton explained his actions today. He fronted up to the media. His house, his farm is flooded in as we speak. But again, the Prime Minister, 12 hours after a terrorist attack, is at a Labor Party fundraiser, Sam. Are you going to comment and defend that?
Aaron, our focus is on the people of Queensland and northern New South Wales at the moment. And I think changing the subject does no service to the communities that are so seriously affected. Peter Dutton, at a time when he should have been supporting his own community. This guy puts himself forward as a proud Queenslander. He should have been looking after his own community, and he's buzzing off to Sydney, to one of the biggest, flashiest houses in Sydney, to get a knees up with all of his wealthy Liberal Party donors. This is a disgrace. This is not the kind of behaviour we expect from the bloke who thinks he wants to be the Prime Minister of this country. This is selfish, and ultimately the community are judging him for it, where they've seen him with this allegedly questionable trading, personal share trading. I think that people of Australia are starting to wonder what kind of bloke Peter Dutton really is.
Aaron Violi, how important is this next period with the budget reply and so on for Peter Dutton to put a bit more flesh on the bones with his own plans and to say to people that, yes, he is ready to govern?
We need to continue to have the ongoing conversation with the Australian people. I mean, obviously, the ALP are focused on their dirt unit and throwing mud at the opposition. They're not putting forward any policies to solve the challenges the Australian people face. We've come to expect that. We've seen that over the last 3 to 4 months. They've got no record to sell, so they're desperate. But we'll continue to roll out our positive policies. As I said, Peter said that today, that there's more to come from us as a coalition as people start to look to make their decisions. We know that the Prime Minister was planning to call the election Sunday to avoid a budget because it's going to show deficits as far as the eye can see. They got lucky. 2 years of surpluses based on pure revenue upgrades. Every economist knows that. We're going to see that this government have continued to spend and spend. They've made the economic situation worse here in Australia. We finally got a rate cut in February, 6 months after many comparable economies. And we'll continue to hold the government to account while putting forward our positive policies. But everything's up for grabs. It always is in an election. Kieran, you can never take and will never take the Australian voters for granted. We've got to earn that trust, and that's what we continue to do.
Appreciate your time as always, Aaron Violi and Sam Ray. Gents, we will see you next week. Thank you both.
Authorised by Aaron Violi, Liberal Party, Lilydale.